really help us. Yeah.
So I watched the first 20 minutes of this with my cast.
Mm-hmm.
So a bunch of people who had never even heard of this movie.
Yeah.
And we were all sort of talking over the top, so I think they really missed the idea of what Gary Lee is in terms of a racist.
Right.
But all of a sudden the room got quiet, and Gary Lee, because that was look how cool they look when they were rollerblading up. And Gary Lee, one of the first things he says to him was thank you, Bullwinkle, say thank you, and then he goes, all right. What'd you tell that racial slur?
Yeah.
Cop? And everyone in the cast was like, oh. Wow. I was and that's when I was I don't really remember it being like that.
Yeah.
Where it was remember in College Kickboxer when the first thing that
yes. Yeah.
the racist karate gang? This is that. It's but this, I guess there's more reason for him to be a racist in his ideology. At least it's backed up with some type of overall character development.
Right, which is what we complained about in College Kickboxer.
Yes.
There's nothing to back it up.
Yeah. It's still, I don't know, man. It just still seems to really pop out at you. So what else happens that's really cool in this movie?
Well, I think the big part of the movie, too, or the party that I just wanted to touch on is him again with Patricia Arquette,
right.
Casey. And so, he kind of does this thing, just goes up, no consent, just a hard kiss on the mouth, and, telling her that he has the mist on her, and she's still acting like this mist head.
Yeah.
And so then he just decides to go ahead and take off her underwear. And you think that it's just going to get down and dirty right there, because again, you have no idea that Casey Patricia Arquette is a cop yet.
And the way they are kissing,
it
is a lot of.
It's
it
that
really
spit
is
kiss. It's that.
It's that early 15-year-old kiss that you would have sometimes, where it's the eagerness and the nervousness all bundled together.
Teeth touch, and it's just
touch, tongue first. But they're doing it as if they're being very sensual.
Right.
It's just a big kiss. I'll say it's a big kiss.
Yeah. And he just kind of leads her on. Then he says, oh, you'd do anything for the mist. And then he just goes off on his way.
Really makes him an asshole.
It does. Yeah.
Here's this poor woman, which, as far as he knows, is an addict. She's going through the same shit he is. She's just doing drugs, and I mean, I guess what he thinks is that she's sort of been passed around the Rollerboys and all this stuff. So he's obviously attracted to her, but he really takes it too far. He could have just been get your life together and leave me alone.
Yeah. Well, after she dressed up in that cowgirl outfit, but that was afterwards.
That's when he was okay, this is cool. Basically, Corey Haim has to go undercover, and he gets closer and closer to Griffin. And he's doing this with the reassurance from the police that they will relocate his family.
Right.
But maybe he gets in too deep, and he has to do some shit he doesn't want to do. But I think the scene I want to talk about next is his initiation into the Rollerboys.
Yeah, that's what we have to talk about. Yeah.
Great scene. This is a wonderful... So
I love any initiation scene.
Yes. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Talk about what their initiation is, Marcus.
So with the initiation, this is a weapons plant? That's what that is?
Right when Corey Haim sort of first goes to Griffin's sanctuary, he's talking with what appears to be a Chinese arms dealer.
That's right, yeah.
And he's and the guy's why don't you just take the guns we've given you now, and we'll see how you do, and then we can sell you the rest. And Griffin's I wish you would reconsider, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then and so the guy's arms port and storage is in America. So
right. And so at this plant, Gary Lee gives Griffin and two other Rollerboy guys who are trying to be initiated, hopefuls, into the group, gives them the rundown that all three of them have to... And this is while they're all tethered on a rope on the back of a truck. And so it's going full speed, and they're just... Gary Lee is yelling at them during this time, and you think that he could tell them this beforehand, and not just while it's going on. But they're tethered up, they're rollerblading hard, they can't do anything to stop. And he's telling them whoever gets a security badge, gets inside, gets a security badge, and gets to the trucks at the end and gets out, then that one person will be a rollerboy. The other two will have to find a ride home, which is oh, okay, yeah. And watching this, I still hadn't seen the violence really yet. until the first gunshot goes off here. And, man, immediately, poor boy in the blue, so the truck makes a hard left, and it just kind of whips the Rollerboys, like, right in through the gates of the security.
It's really funny. Like, he's telling them this, and then there's this, like, 5-second window where they have time to take in the information they were just given. And then they just, like Marcus says, they veer a hard left in this van and send these guys directly into gunfire.
And man,
like storming the beaches of Omaha.
Yeah, it is. It's hard right into it, and one of the guys gets shot immediately in the back.
Poor fuck.
Yeah. And then
there's two left.
Yeah, it's a chase for the other two, for Griffin and the other unnamed hopeful into the Rollerboy. Yeah. And
I would like to know more about him.
I know, man. I mean, did he have a family? Was he just trying to make things work? I mean, yeah. Or was he a racist and he really believed in the views of Gary Lee?
And he hates Corey Haim from the beginning of the race, and he's anything to get this done, anything to become a roller boy, and he's sabotaging Corey Haim throughout. Corey Haim's trying to do this the right way. He's like, let's just do this. And they're avoiding gunfire. They're rollerblading, jumping over cars. And eventually, Corey Haim does get a security badge from this security worker. But then that other asshole's like, nah, you did all the work, now I'm just going to take it.
Right. And then it's just a hard sprint, kind of ducking and dodging through the last quarter mile, or whatever it is, to the trucks. We get an entrance of Bango, who's been unnamed yet so far, I think. But he just gets a rocket launcher out when it could have easily just been bolt cutters and just opened the gate. But he gets a rocket launcher out and blows that gate up. And, Corey Haim makes it to the truck first. And then we get the coldness of Gary Lee.
Gary Lee gives two shits.
Just with a snub-nosed revolver, just takes two to the chest, or gives two to the chest for the other dude. And
because he didn't make it.
No, just shoots him down and throws the badge out and just like, all right, we're good. I was hoping you'd make it, Griffin.
Because it was all a distraction for
the guns.
Gary Lee to steal the guns that he originally wanted. So, Gary Lee's cold, calculated, fun little story, fun plot device, and really well shot. Like I said, that's a really well done action sequence.
It is fun, yeah.
And so we get to see sort of the coldness of Gary Lee there. And let's go into the first time. There's some fun action. Eventually, Patricia Arquette pretends to suck Corey Haim's dick, or she does a little bit. I can't tell.
I want to make you feel good.
So she to get him back, basically, he finds out she's a cop and all this stuff, and the pervert cops are listening in, and they start betting on whether or not he's going to have sex with her. And so the series of events is she gets him naked, she's sucking his fingers, and he's like, oh, this is great. And then her head goes out of screen, and he has a reaction as if it has begun, if the oral satisfaction has begun. So I'm curious, did she...
I thought she did. I thought that there was at least, maybe a tip or something in there.
And then she was like, psych, and then threw his boxers at his ass. His old man boxers.
Yeah. And Corey Haim on this, he's a 19-year-old, but that he had the frail body of the upper body of a 13-year-old. He looked so young when he's like that.
He really did. When he was just naked and vulnerable, he did look oddly young. So she threw the boxers at his face. She got that back. And eventually they find out they have a lot more in common than they think. Her brother was a roller boy, etc.
Yeah.
And then, there's, like I said, there's a lot of fun moments. I want to go to when, and you stop me if you want to go somewhere else, but let's go into when he has made his pact, and they go into the room with Bango, and Bango's going to let him sit in the manufacturing trailer. So this is when it gets this is when I was like, as I was rewatching this, like, once again, as a kid, had no idea.
Right.
That it was this sinister. Yeah. So basically the idea is that the police can never find the missed warehouses because Gary Lee has rigged it, and in his with these little trailers to where all they have to do is press a button and acid goes through everything and burns the entire warehouses down, basically. And so no one can ever find anything. But Griffin needs that to close the case on Gary Lee. So he's infiltrated deep enough to where he is going to spend the night in the manufacturing trailer with Bango, who has sort of become his friend through all of this.
Yeah, and didn't you love, like, when they're entering the first shot of, like, the trailer when Gary Lee is kind of introducing Griffin to it? Mm-hmm. Gary Lee's pulling up, him and Haim in their car, and it's just like, morning, Gary Lee! And everybody's just like, it's just like a day at the office,
yeah,
man.
It is. It really is. And so, basically, once your shift is started, you can't leave. You're making the drug for 8 hours straight, and he's going through all of it. And what you find out is that the drug by itself is just it's a drug that gets you high and stuff like that. But what they're doing is adding a sterilization aspect to it, which is why if you're a member of the Rollerboys, you can't do it.
Yeah.
Because Gary Lee's plan is to get what he considers the inferior races to be addicted to where they can't procreate, but yet his Rollerboys can continue. And that is fucked up.
That's pretty sinister right there. That
is dark.
That is.
I mean,
it's just like other bad guys, other villains that we've dealt with in action movies. Just like my goal is to kill XYZ or to to stop this person or to kill this person. But man, no, Gary Lee is just a teenager and he's got his sights set on.
I mean, let's think about the vast. I mean, they're trying to go worldwide with it. They have already crippled the city with this mass of drugs onto the streets. You think about Hans Gruber, who was a great villain, but what he was doing was pretty much selfish and like it wasn't for a cause. You find out later, but this is like some weird Jim Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, just dark and like that. I really would drop my jaw when I rewatched it fully for the first time after like, I don't know, 30 years or so. I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah, I did not expect that. Like, I expected the day of the rope being, when they would just gather up all these non-white, people and just hang them all. And and that wouldn't have shocked me as much as this did. This did,
yeah. Yeah. And so you find out, and of course, Corey Haim is worried because his little brothers sort of got into it. And this is when he offers Bango, he's like, hey, Bango, how do you really feel about Gary Lee? Because Griffin and Bango they've bonded. They like each other, obviously. And so Corey Haim decides to chance it and say, hey, how do you feel about Gary Lee? And he's like, of course, Bango's like, I'd die for him. And then Griffin has to turn because the cops show up. And he's not gonna, he needs the mist to stay.
How disappointed, though, were you? Maybe as a kid you weren't because you didn't really take into effect, but as an adult, once the fight started with Bango, I thought that he would get in the acid. I thought that facing the acid or something up to that point.
Something would have been nice.
Yeah, or the bad cops or something when they busted in. But I wish. Yeah. Because when he dropped the rat in there, it's like, oh, that's going to be foreshadowing. He's going to be in it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a foreshadowing moment where basically they find a dead rat in a mousetrap and they stick it into the vat of the mist creation. So, because they don't give a fuck. But yeah, that is unfortunate that nothing happened, or like they could have shot it and it would have melted. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So you get a fun fight with Bango, and you get the cops busting in. Turns out all the cops who have been working with Patricia Arquette's character, they are all bad. And they try to kill Corey because they want to take all the money. And they get killed.
Yeah, so they've been dirty cops from the first, with setting the house that Bullwinkle was in on fire and stealing the money from there, trying to steal the money from there, and just trying to find all these mist houses so they could get rich off of these mist houses.
And they found the mother lode, and they get shot. Patricia Arquette shoots one or both?
One, and then the Jaworski comes in and shoots the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. That's what it is. And then
hey, Ramrod.